Let's open our eyes to the world that's around us. Science has the answers to the questions that have found us.
Malia Science.
Alright, Malia Gang, today we're going to talk about conservation, particularly conservation of water, and how we can save water, one of our most important natural resources.
Isn't water like 90% of the earth? Like,
Well,
look here.
Okay, yeah, it's about 71% of the earth is covered in water. So why do we need to conserve it? It's a natural resource that's renewable. Well, first of all, a natural resource is something that the earth gives us that we use. Humans obviously use water. And like Roland said, there's tons of water. There's trillions and trillions of gallons of water on the earth. So why do we need to conserve it? Well, let's pretend that all the water on the earth was in this gallon. This is all the water we have on the earth. All right? Well, out of all this water, there you go. I just filled up the cap. All of this water is salt water. This water here, about 3% of the whole water on the earth, is fresh water. This is all the fresh water we have. And all of this is salt water. Salt water can't be used to drink. It can't be used to grow crops. It can be used to cool things down, like in factories. But even then, the salt stays behind and gums things up. So this is all the fresh water we got. That's not a lot, is it? But it gets worse. If I go get a dropper and I take out just a few drops of this water, about 0.007% or so of the whole water. So right here. Now all this fresh water is frozen in icebergs. It's frozen in glaciers. It's frozen. And it doesn't enter the water cycle because it stays as ice. So all this is in glaciers, these slow-moving forms of ice that we find around Antarctica and places. It's also frozen at the tops of mountains, and it never gets below freezing, in places where it never gets below freezing, so it can't melt. So this water really can't be used. So right here, we have the few drops of water, if we only had a gallon of water on the earth, that we can use. Everything else is either salt water, or stays underground, or stays frozen. So this is why we have to conserve water, even though it's a renewable resource, meaning some resources, like fossil fuels and certain metals, once you use them up, they're gone. Water renews itself because of the water cycle, which we talked about in a past video. But we need to talk about ways that we can conserve this natural resource. What is conservation? Do you know?
No.
Okay. Well, it is the wise use of a natural resource, which means we don't just waste it. We use it wisely. We have to do this with trees, too. At the end, we're going to read a book about what happens when people don't conserve trees. Maybe you're familiar with this one. So, there's an old saying by the Native Americans that goes, we didn't inherit the earth from our parents, we're borrowing it from our kids. And what that means is, when you inherit something, it's given to you. If I were to say, here you go, here's my favorite horse, I'm going to give this to you. Now, you've gotten that. That's your horse now. You can do whatever you want with it. You could sell it. You could give it to the dog to play with. You could put it in a box. You could bury it in the ground. Whatever you want, you can do with it because it's yours. That's inheriting something. Now, if I take the same horse and I say, well, here, you can borrow my favorite horse, but you're going to have to give it back to me someday. Now, you have to treat the horse differently. You can't give it to the dog to play with. You can't burn it. You can't bury it. You have to keep it safe and in good condition so that when I ask for my favorite horse back, hello, horsey, then it's in good condition. That's what the Native Americans meant. the earth isn't ours, we're just going to hand it down to the next generation. Well, in order to do that and to give it to the kids, like when you grow up, for it to be in good shape and us to still have good natural resources, there's certain things that we have to do. And that's called conservation, the wise use of our natural resources. We need to do certain things, and there's certain things that you can do at home, Malia Gang. Easy things that kids can do, like controlling the flow of the water you use. That means simple things like when you're brushing your teeth. How many people turn the water faucet on and then brush their teeth and then let it flow while they're brushing their teeth? Turn it on, get your toothbrush wet, turn it off, brush your teeth. You need to rinse, turn it back on. There you go. All that water isn't going down the drain for no reason. Another thing we could do is take showers. I know bubble baths are nice and they're relaxing sometimes, but every time we take a shower, we're saving water. It takes 1/3 of the amount of water to take a shower as it does to take a bath. That means you could take 3 showers and use the same amount as taking 1 bath. So there's something we can do. Recycling. If I recycle my paper, does that save water? Well, sure it does, because manufacturing places that make paper, they use a lot of water to do that in the process. And so every time we recycle aluminum or paper or things like that, it helps us to conserve water.
How do those people use water to make paper?
Okay, well think about it. The employees have to drink the water. In order to get the fibers in paper to separate, they have to soak them in water. And then that water just gets dumped down a drain. And same with people who make aluminum cans. They don't have to soak them in water, but they do have to clean them with water and everything. Just all manufacturing plants use a lot of water. If they have a machine that gets too hot, they need to cool it down with water. So the less we have to use those machines, the more water we can conserve. That's how recycling helps us. And one of the most important things that we can do is to clean up our waterways. If you're down by the creek or the beach and you see a bunch of trash, boy, it really helps our water system if you clean up trash. And probably one of the most important things we can do is spread the word. We want to tell everybody about how important it is to save water. Okay, we are going to read a book by Dr. Suess called The Lorax. And it is about the importance of conservation and how at one point a young man saw that making money was more important than saving trees. The Lorax by Dr. Suess. At the far end of town where the grickle grass grows, and the wind smells slow and sour when it blows, and the birds never sing excepting old crows, is the street of the lifted Lorax. And deep in the grickle grass, some people say, if you look deep enough, you can still see today where the Lorax once stood, just as long as it could, before somebody lifted the Lorax away. What was the Lorax, and why was it there? And why was it lifted and taken somewhere? From the far end of town where the grickle grass grows, the old Onceler still lives there. Ask him, he knows. Oh, you won't see the Onceler. Don't knock on his door. He stays in his lurkum on the top of his store. He lurks in his lurkum, cold under the roof, where he makes his own clothes out of muffin moof. And on special dank midnights in August, he peeks out of the shutters. And sometimes he speaks, and he tells how the Lorax was lifted away. He'll tell you, perhaps, if you're willing to pay. On the end of a rope, he lets down a tin pail, and you have to toss in 15 cents and a nail, and the shell of a great-great-great-great-grandfather snail. Then he pulls up the pail and makes most careful count to see if you paid him the proper amount. Then he hides what you paid him away in his snub, his secret strange hole in his glovulous glove. And then he grunts, "I'll call you by whisper, my phone, for the secrets I tell you are for your ears alone." Slump. Down slups the whisper-phone to your ear, and the old onceler's whispers are not very clear, since they have to come down through a snurgly hose, and he sounds as if he has smallish bees up his nose. "Now I'll tell you," he says, with his teeth sounding gray, "how the Lorax was lifted and taken away. It all started way back, such a long, long, long time back. Way back in the days when the grass was still green and the ponds were still wet and the clouds were still clean and the songs of the Swami songs rang out in space. One morning I came to this glorious place and I first saw the trees, the truffula trees, the bright colored tufts of the truffula trees, mile after mile in the fresh morning breeze. And under the trees I saw brown barbaloots, frisking about in their barbaloot suits, as they played in the shade and ate truffula fruits. From the ripulous pond came the comfortable sounds of the humming fish humming while splashing around. Oh, but those trees, those truffula trees. All my life I've been searching for trees such as these. The touch of their tufts was much softer than silk, and they had the sweet smell of fresh butterfly milk. I felt a great leaping of joy in my heart. I knew what I'd do, and I unloaded my cart. In no time at all, I'd built a small shop, and then I chopped down a truffula tree with one chop. And with great skillful skill and with great speedy speed, I took the soft tuft and I knitted a sneed. The instant I finished, I heard a gazoop. I looked. I saw something pop out of the stump of the tree I chopped down. It was sort of a man. Describe him, that's hard. I don't know if I can. He was shortish and oldish and brownish and mossy, and he spoke with a voice that was sharpish and bossy. "Mister," he said with a sawdusty sneeze, "I am the Lorax, and I speak for the trees. I speak for the trees have no tongues, and I'm asking you, sir, at the top of my lungs." Oh, he was very upset as he shouted and puffed. "What's that thing you've made of my truffula tuft?" "Look, Lorax," I said, "there's no cause for alarm. I chopped just one tree. I'm doing no harm. I'm being quite useful. Why, this thing is a thneed. A thneed's to find something that all people need. It's a shirt, it's a sock, it's a glove, it's a hat. Oh, but it has uses, yes, far beyond that. You can use it for carpets, for pillows, for sheets, or curtains or covers, for bicycle seats." The Lorax said, "Sir, you are crazy with greed. There's no one on earth that will buy that fool thneed." But the very next minute, I proved he was wrong. For just at that minute, a chap came along, and he thought that the thneed I had knitted was great. He happily bought it for $3.98. I laughed at the Lorax. "You poor stupid guy. You never can tell what some people will buy." "I repeat," I cried the Lorax, "I speak for the trees." "I'm busy," I told him. "Shut up, if you please." I rushed across the room, and in no time at all, the little radio phone, I put in a quick call. I called all my brothers and uncles and aunts, and I said, "Listen here, here's a wonderful chance for the whole Onceler family to get mighty rich. Get over here fast. Take the road to North Nitch. Turn left at Weehawken, sharp right at South Stitch." And in no time at all, the factory I built, the Onceler family was working full tilt. We were all knitting thneeds, just as busy as bees, to the sound of the chopping of truffula trees. Then, oh baby oh, how my business did grow. Now chopping one tree at a time was too slow, so I quickly invented my super axe hacker, which whacked off 4 truffula trees at one smacker. We were making thneeds 4 times as fast as before, and that Lorax, he didn't show up anymore. But the next week, he knocked on my new office door. He snapped, "I am the Lorax who speaks for the trees, which you seem to be chopping as fast as you please. But I'm also in charge of the brown barbaloots, who played in the shade and ate in their barbaloot suits, and happily lived eating truffula fruits. Now, thanks to your hacking the trees to the ground, there's not enough truffula fruit to go round, and my poor barbaloots are all getting the crummies because they have gas and no food in their tummies." Oh, they loved living here, but I can't let them stay. They'll have to find food, and I hope that they may. "Good luck, boys," he cried, and he sent them away. I, the Onceler, felt sad as I watched them all go, but business is business, and business must grow, regardless of crummies and tummies, you know. I meant no harm, I most truly did not, but I had to grow bigger, so bigger I got. I biggered my factory, I biggered my roads, I biggered my wagons, I biggered my loads of the thneeds I shipped out. I was shipping them forth, to the south, to the east, to the west, to the north. I went right on biggering, selling more thneeds, and I biggered my money, which everyone needs. Then again he came back. I was fixing some pipes, when that old nuisance Lorax came back with more gripes. "I am the Lorax!" He coughed and he whiffed. He sneezed and he snuffled, he snaggered, he sniffed. "Onceler!" he cried with a crufulous croak. "Onceler, you're making such smogulous smoke. My poor swami swams, why they can't sing a note. No one can sing who's got smog in his throat. And also," said the Lorax, "please pardon my cough. They can't live here, so I'm sending them off. Where will they go? I don't hopefully know. They may have to fly for a month or a year to escape from the smog you smogged up around here." "What's more," snapped the Lorax, his dander was up, "let me say a few words about Gluppity Glup. Your machinery chugs on day and night without stop, making gluppity glup, also schloppity slop. And what do you do with this leftover goo? I'll show you, you dirty old Onceler man, you. You're glumping the pond where the humming fish hummed. No more can they hum, for their gills are all gummed. So I'm sending them off. Oh, their future is dreary. They'll walk on their fins and get woefully weary, in search of some water that isn't so smeary. Oh, and then I got mad. I got terribly mad. I yelled at the Lorax, "Now listen here, Dad. All you do is yap, yap, and say, bad, bad, bad. Well, I have my rights, sir, and I'm telling you, I intend to go on doing just what I do. And for your information, you Lorax, I'm figuring on biggering and biggering and biggering and biggering." And at that very moment, we heard a loud whack. From outside in the fields came a sickening smack of an axe on a tree. Then we heard the tree fall, the very last truffula tree of all. No more trees, no more thneeds, no more work to be done. So in no time my uncles and aunts, every one, all waved me goodbye, then jumped in my cars and drove way underneath the smoke-smothered stars. Now all that was left neath that bad-smelling sky was my big empty factory, the Lorax and I. The Lorax said nothing, just gave me a glance. Just gave me a very sad backward glance as he lifted himself by the seat of his pants. I'll never forget the grim look on his face as he heisted himself and took leave of this place through a hole in the smog without leaving a trace. And all that the Lorax left in this mess was a small pile of rocks with one word and less. Whatever that meant, well, I just couldn't guess. That was long, long ago, but each day since that day I've sat and worried away. Through the years while my buildings fell apart, I worried about it with all of my heart. But now, says the Onceler, now that you're here, the word of the Lorax seems perfectly clear. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not. So, catch, calls the Onceler. He lets something fall. It's a truffula seed. It's the last of them all. You're in charge of the last of the truffula seeds. And truffula trees are what everyone needs. Plant a new truffula, treat it with care. Give it clean water and feed it fresh air. Grow a forest, protect it from axes that hack. Then the Lorax and all of his friends may come back. The end. Okay, so that was a quick story by Dr. Suess trying to get kids and adults to conserve, use their natural resources wisely, just like you can. We can conserve our water. We can drink out of reusable water bottles. We can do a lot of things that we just talked about today. So I would like to see everybody spread the word about how important conservation is. We'll see you next time. Bye.
And check out this rockin' bonus video made on conservation from the Wildcats.
Yeah, Wildcats don't play when it comes to recycling every day. It's easy to do, you just take a second to think before you throw the things away. Here at Springfield, we see problems and we don't hesitate. While others sit and speculate, we educate. Answers we create. Some people are at war with the planet, but it's time to call a truce. It's time we start listening to the wise Dr. Seuss and speak for the trees, because they got no voices. With the natural resources, we gotta make wiser choices. How can I reduce, you ask? It's just a simple task. It'd be fantastic if you use less plastic. Remember, paper has two sides. And please don't ask for rides. But it's just as easy to take a hike or hop on your bike. Yeah, every little thing you do helps to keep the skies blue. Between you and me, we know that most of the oxygen comes from plants in the sea. But that doesn't mean we can just cut down every tree. But of course, once in a while we need to use that resource. But the solution is easy to do. For every one we chop down, why not plant two? It's not open for debate. The planet can't wait. What you gonna do though? Mess up this planet and go live on Pluto? Nah, that's not an option. Pluto's not a planet. The other 7, they're not up for adoption. Our fight for the planet has just begun. We won't stop until it's done. We only got one planet that's a perfect fit. And it's not ours. From future generations, we're just borrowing it.